or eat watermelon chicken and Kool-Aid on weekends.
This is my favorite part.
Enough to get Michael Jordan endorsements or watch BET because urban support is important. So why did I weep when Trayvon Martin was in the street? When gang banging make me kill a blacker than me? Hypocrite.
That's my favorite part.
Oh man. Do you have the album?
Yeah.
There you go. Okay. Go ahead and talk to you, man. I don't have them play the album on, so I just listen to it. YouTube video.
Why was I weeping in the streets when they killed Trayvon Martin, but gangbanger made me kill a blacker than me? Hypocrite. Shout out to all the hypocrites. I want to say good rising, good rising. Today is the day that the Lord had made. Am I glad? All the way. Ashe, ashe. So you guys remember E.R. Bills, right? Black Holocaust? No? Slocum, Texas? No? Well, let me bring you back. E.R. Bills is a writer. He's out of Texas, and he has written about Slocum, Texas, where the Slocum massacre, actually. And he took it so far. Let me tell you how far he took it. It wasn't just bringing to awareness, Texas, hey, you committed this atrocity. He said, Texas, hey, not only did you commit this atrocity, but we need a landmark. We need a landmark to sit here and dedicate to those that are lost because of our atrocity. Can I tell you how hard he had to fight? All my life, I had to fight. Do you know how long he had to fight? And now finally, on Saturday, January 16th, a historical marker for the Slocum massacre will list the names of its officially acknowledged victims will be unveiled. I am so excited. Please, please give your love, your peace, your blessings to E.R. Bills. Good rising, my king. How are you? I'm super fantastic. So please, let's start from the beginning. We remember you. We got listeners that remember you from the Black Holocaust, the Paris Horror, and the legacy of the Texas Terror. For those that are currently on Periscope and YouTube, this is the book. It contains graphic images, but this is history. And I know it's difficult for some people to accept, but in this book, you state incident after incident after incident. Where did you get all of this truth and all of these facts in order to put the book together?
Well, actually, I stumbled on most of this stuff, or most parts of the book, when I was working on the Slocum Massacre book. I just kept coming across situations where African Americans had been burned at the stake. And one of them happened like 2 months before the Slocum Massacre in 1910. And actually another one happened, or there was another attempt in Dallas to burn an African American, I think in that April before the Slocum Massacre. So those two cases popped up then, but as I was researching those cases, you know, to get sort of the regional context, what was happening in Texas at the time, I stumbled on other cases. For instance, the burning at the stake of Jesse Washington in front of like 15,000 people in Waco, Texas. The 100th anniversary of that is coming up here in a few months. And so, again, dark subject matter, but all in all, there were dozens of African Americans burned at the stake in Texas from like 1861 to the last one in 1933. Those are the ones we know about. And so it was sort of the follow-up of Slocum Massacre. And you know, as you said, it's a terrible history, distasteful. And you know, as far as how I discovered it, it was just doing research on the Slocum Massacre.
So the Slocum Massacre is one of the darkest moments in Texas history. But for those who have no idea what the Slocum Massacre is, could you give us a brief overview of what exactly took place? Sure.
Well, everybody's heard, or there's been a lot of talk over the last year or so about the first heavyweight black champion, Jack Johnson. Well, July 5th, 1910 is the day he defeated the Great White Hope, Jim Jeffries. Well, 3 weeks later in Slocum, Texas, there were some disagreements about supposedly some disagreements about a small debt. There was some friction about an African American being appointed to summon folks for, sort of county work repair or maintenance day. And there were just a few minor issues, and then some tension, I guess, about the Jack Johnson victory. And on July 29th, 1910, white folks just started going around and killing African Americans as fast as they could find them, as fast or as many as they could hunt down. Mobs of 20, 30, 100, 200 went through this area of southeastern Anderson County, again, just gunning them down in cold blood. And so that's basically the Slocum Massacre. It went on for like 2 days, 2.5 days. At this point, it hasn't been established how many were killed. There were 8 casualties acknowledged officially, but nobody thinks that's an accurate number, because the sheriff of the day, who was white, said, there are so many dead and they're everywhere, so many bodies, the buzzards are going to find most of them first. We're not going to be able to get to all of them. And so, the African American oral tradition suggests there were at least 200 casualties, which would make it, maybe the bloodiest or one of the bloodiest pogroms against African Americans in the United States history, and certainly more than the Rosewood Massacre, and rivaled, if not surpassing, the Tulsa riots.
So we didn't even get into the bulk of the conversation. We already have a caller calling in. For those that are interested, 617-282-0062, or you can hit me up anonymously on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TaylaAndre. We're talking about Slocum Massacre, Black Holocaust with E.R. Bills. Good rising, caller, you live.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm super fantastic. Go ahead.
Irony is, no matter where you go in the world, I don't care if it's South America, or in the Middle East, wherever you see Africans, you see some type of abuse. So why don't we just drop our nationality and just keep the race? I don't care where you are in the world, just identify yourself as African and form of one group. So whenever there's oppression in that area, you guys can kick some ass. As opposed to calling yourself Iranians, Americans, Germans, and French. And one chick told me she was Portuguese and as dark as the night. Just call yourself what the world sees you as, African. Or better yet, Moor, because African is not even the word that we use. That was named after some Greek combo. So we'll just call ourselves Moors like we used to before the colonization. And anytime we get beat or jumped in any country, we just go out there with bats. No more calling of law enforcement. It'll be a global Black Panther party. And then it will stop. If there's no bloodshed, it will continue.
E.R. Bills, you have anything you want to say to that?
I think it's an interesting point. It's an interesting idea. I don't obviously I don't condone global bloodshed, and like I said, I think it's
Why did I answer the
interesting
phone?
concept. I don't know how far it will get. I'm not a military expert, and I know that.
Did you recognize the number?
Well, the practical applications of that idea,
Are asinine.
I don't know that I can comment.
I said it.
comment on
It's
the
asinine.
but I do know that that the Christians defeated the Romans without shedding a single drop of blood. And obviously, Gandhi worked over the British with nonviolence. There have been cases where, I guess, where violence have been effective, but I don't know. I don't know about that concept. But I understand the frustration and anger, so I can relate.
So for those who don't know, I do want to distinguish that ER is actually Caucasian. one of the things I'd like to ask you is, have you noticed or have you felt any opposition towards what it is you've done by shedding light on the situation, by opening the eyes of not only Texans, but Americans to the atrocities that took place in Texas? Have you received any opposition? Like, why are you doing this? Like, you're not Black, this doesn't affect you? Or have you received anything as far as racially, racial comments?
Well, sure. I mean, most of them have probably come from other folks that are white. Some of my friends have accused me of being ashamed of my whiteness, whatever that means. You know, when I first talked to one of the representatives down in Anderson County here in Texas about doing this story on this local massacre, you know, he told me there was never enough evidence that it really happened, and then I proceeded to list things that I discovered and demonstrate that the evidence was there. And he said, "You're not with the NAACP, are you?" And I was like, "No, and no, I'm not." But you know, I tried to guide him back to the point. You know, I wanted to talk about this history, and you know, he kind of waffled, and in the end, I kept pressing him about it, and finally, he just said flat out, he said, "Aren't you a white man?" And I was like, "Yeah, you know, yes, I am a white man." I said, "But I'm also a human being. And what happened down there happened to human beings. And I'm going to tell this story whether you help me or not." And basically, in the end, I wound up telling the story without any help from the Anderson County Historical Commission. And so there was some opposition along the way, and even from the African American community, you know, and it was, you know, probably it could only be expected. Their suspicion of me, because they were like, who is this white guy? You know, was he exploiting our history here? And you know, that certainly wasn't the case. And but a lot of them, you know, wanted to know what I was about and why I was after this. And after getting to the bottom of this story, and once they found out what I was trying to do, you know, they were supportive. So, you know, that was most of the opposition, and most of the sort of menace. Most of that was on the white side of things. And you know, to this day, there are folks there they're still really upset about this history being told, and you know, we're fearful. The descendants of some of the victims of the Slocum Massacre that I work with, we're all fearful, and we're all very careful when we're in that area.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question. What exactly got you into this? What exactly started this passion for you? What did you do prior to writing books about Texas atrocities towards Black people?
Oh, well, well, I philosophically or literarily, maybe I was aimless. I think it may have started when I was young, you know, but especially in college, I was interested in issues of social justice. You know, you go off to school and you get an idea of how things kind of are, and if you have good professors and there are solid intellectuals around, and they expose you to sort of, you know, the fact that the things you've been taught in school, you know, grade school, you know, they're not exactly accurate. They're just what we're stuffed with, like Thanksgiving turkeys, until I guess we get loose. But I started to find out some things. I started to look around more, and I was frustrated. So I started really writing about this kind of thing, you know, back in the 80s, or actually early 90s when I was in college. And, you know, I got away from when I took on kind of a real job, and when I was older, and so to speak, you know, what the grown-ups tell you, you know, get a real job. And I kind of got away from it and got married and started raising my kids. And eventually I got back to writing, and that's what fascinated me. That's what compelled me, you know, and was writing about things that I cared about. So that's how I got back into it. Originally, I was writing travel pieces and little historical pieces, you know, for magazines and newspapers. It was lighter stuff, a little fluffier, pretty interesting, some of it. But I started to stumble on to these atrocities in Texas. And I think I mentioned to you before, when I first saw that movie, The Help, which came out a few years back, there was a scene in it where Viola Davis, Medgar Evers has been assassinated, and Viola Davis is trying to get home. She's on the bus with one of her friends, and she says they're going to kill us all. And I remember thinking smugly and naively at the time, I thought, those folks in Mississippi, they're off the reservation. They're crazy. And then later, of course, I stumbled on to the Slocum Massacre, and I was just shocked. I was appalled, and frankly, it would be like you or I walking down the street and seeing the dead body on the side of the road. I mean, do we tell somebody? Do we try to get to the bottom of it? I mean, I think any normal, decent person would be compelled to, once they find out this kind of thing has happened, to report it. Basically, very basic level, to try to communicate, or tell someone what's happened. And in this case, not a lot of people wanted to talk about the body on the side of the road, or these bodies in the woods that have been buried in mass graves. But I thought it was really important, and I thought, a lot of people say, well, why is it? It happened 100 years ago, over 100 years ago. And the thing is this, I mean, if you have a community that gets away with an atrocity of this magnitude, and they're never called out on it, and they never have to acknowledge or atone for it, they get away with it, then the folks who were a victim of this, they have to tiptoe around, this sort of monstrous success. The African Americans in the community walk around in fear if they know the white folks there got away with just killing people in cold blood, and nobody ever even called them out, and that creates an atmosphere that isn't just, and isn't fair. And so it was important to me, especially considering the state of politics in Texas these days, to sort of discuss these acts and these atrocities, because I think if they were more well known, and I think if more folks and more communities had to face the fact that stuff had happened in their towns or in their counties, then they couldn't operate the way they do today. Things would be better.
Do you think white privilege would not be at the all-time high that it is today if we were to acknowledge the atrocities across America?
Well, can I say the N-word?
Can we call it ninja?
Well, I can tell you this. I think the last governor we had got reelected after it came out that he hunted at a ranch called the Ninja Head Ranch.
We remember that.
Yeah, the guy got reelected, and I think even the current governor may have hunted there. And you just in any sane discussion, that I don't think that happens. And but it's so bad down here, and it's so backwards, and people are so ignorant. I think stuff like that, it's commonplace, and it just goes on. And I just think if the history was there, people, basically, Tayla, Texans like to think of themselves pretty fair people, pretty decent people. But if they had to acknowledge their history, if they really understood, in so many cases, we weren't decent and we weren't fair, I think it would be, honestly, disturbing to them, and they would want to represent themselves better and maybe deal with these things more constructively.
So as far as Texas today, what is the atmosphere in Texas? Like, aside from Rick Perry's family hunting at Ninja Head Lodge, is the atmosphere in Texas still that tense where blacks walk on eggshells?
No, I wouldn't say across the state, no, but in East Texas, where the Slocum Massacre happened, yes, and a lot of places it's still like that. Obviously, Sandra Bland, right?
Absolutely. Say a name.
Jesse Bird, I think, was dragged behind the truck here a few years back. There are incidents here and there, all over the place, but for the most part, there are places in East Texas where people live in fear, abject fear, and you don't know. you don't know what it's like until you've experienced it. Of course, as a white guy, you know, it's foreign to me. But when I go to East Texas, and you know, for instance, we were there for a TV spot to talk to a news station, and it was raining, and we contacted a local church about a local African American church about using the church, you know, to maybe film the interviews with me and one of the descendants, Constance Holly Wade. She's the one I worked with on the historical marker effort. She's really the face, you know, of the effort. And we tried to have this spot at this African American church, and they were like, no way, you know, they were afraid of reprisal. They weren't comfortable with it.
That's crazy.
A lot of folks down there, you know, were afraid to talk about the Slocum Massacre altogether. So the book and the effort have really sort of galvanized the conversation that people are having about it now. I mean, before they couldn't really talk about it. They were afraid to, but between Constance and I, the marker effort in the book, now it's being talked about. As I said, as I alluded to earlier, I mean, we're also interested in trying to determine the location of the mass graves supposedly that are there. And you know, Constance Holly Wade, again, the chief proponent of the Slocum Massacre historical marker, you know, she made the comment the other day. She said, we were having problems, you know, getting people's permission to look around to try to locate these graves. And she said, you know, if this was a mass grave supposedly containing Confederate soldiers, they'd have had it dug up 70 years ago. There'd already be a museum. And I agree with that. So, you know, it's just injustice across the board, and it was allowed to go on for a long time. And yeah, there are still areas where it's really scary.
So I completely agree with you. I believe if it was Confederate soldiers that, you know, whoever's house that would, it would be eminent domain immediately, and we'd have to set up this public marker for everybody to see that, you know, our forefathers, you know, fought and died here. Do you think that if you were a Black man writing this book, if you were a Black man demanding a marker, do you think you would have come this far? Because you won. Like, there's a marker, and you guys are going to unveil it on Saturday, and I wish I could be there because this is a proud moment in American history. Do you think you would have gotten this far?
That's a really good question, Tayla. I really don't know. I think possibly because in the levels of academia in Texas, and even in the Texas Historical Commission, there seems to be, I don't know whether there's a sense that this needs to be addressed, or there's a possibility that this is gaining so much notoriety that you can't ignore it anymore. I'm not sure what's happening, but I can say this: Constance and I, after we filed the marker application, we went around Anderson County and went directly to the state, and we really didn't think that it would pass. We did not think that we would get this historical marker. We thought we were going to have to keep fighting. Nobody really believed that we would pull this off. Even some of the African American leaders, they thought that there's no way this is going to happen. Somebody's going to sabotage it. You know, it's just the atmosphere down here. They didn't think would happen, and we were shocked. We showed up down at the marker ceremony, really to hit the press, get in front of a microphone after we were rejected. You know, Constance say, you know, we're not going to quit. We're going to keep fighting. And we were shocked when it was passed unanimously, and based on a score of 98 out of 100. So, you know, I don't know if it had solely been an African American effort, you know, it would have been passed. But I will say this: the face, you know, and sort of the passion behind the marker effort was an African American woman, Constance Holly Wade, and so I let her do a lot of it, or most of the heavy lifting. I mean, I just kind of helped write it, and I kind of stayed in the background. So really, the face of it and the primary signature of the petition was African American. So I think there's a possibility, but it's just hard to say. I mean, again, we didn't think we were going to get or have success. So it's been, as you say, a blessing. It's been, and it turned out to be a bigger deal than we even realized because down here in Texas, there was the Camp Logan riot of 1917 in Houston, where black soldiers kind of, had a demonstration because they weren't being treated fairly during World War I. There was the Longview race riot of 1919, which wasn't a race riot at all. It was white folks misbehaving, in my opinion. There was the Brownsville raid, again, African American soldiers being mistreated down in South Texas. And of course, there have been hundreds of folks burned at the stake, African Americans. Not hundreds, dozens, and hundreds of thousands besides. And there have been racial expulsions, like in Comanche County in 1886, where there was a crime that an African American allegedly committed, and basically the county told all the black folks that's where you get the quote: "Be out of town before the sun sets on your back. We'll kill you." Or don't let the sun hit your back in this county. I think was the expression. But apparently, this local massacre historical marker is going to be the first marker out of 16,000 historical markers in Texas. There's over 16,000. This will be the first one where the state acknowledges racial violence against African Americans.
Hold on. 16,000 markers across the state. And this is the first one to acknowledge any type of, in the state of Texas.
I think there may have been some acknowledging.
That's fucking
there's one
crazy.
acknowledging the hanging tree in Goliad that refers, or the hanging tree, but it was the hanging tree chiefly of Mexican Americans. And so we haven't been able to find any other markers that pertain to racial violence against African Americans. And I just listed out for you all the main, the main atrocities, the main, repulsive acts against that community in Texas. And apparently this is the first one, ever addressing that subject. So hopefully it's the first domino, and hopefully these other atrocities, these other injustices will be addressed as well.
So I'm so glad you said that. My question is, Lord have mercy. So I'm mad now. I'm really upset. I'm kind of pissed off. 16,000, and this is the first one. And we all know the history of Texas. If you don't know, you better read a book. It's not illegal anymore. And you said, I hope this will not be the last. If not you, who else out there is trying to make markers or trying to make Texas acknowledge her history?
As far as African American history, there aren't a lot. I mean, and actually, Mexican American history, some of this stuff. The thing is this, okay? These historical commissions, and that's how it's run. The markers are usually proposed to local or county historical commissions, and they pass them on to the state. Well, the historical commissions are composed of volunteers. It's not a paid position, and most of the volunteers in these counties, there's like over 250 counties in Texas, most of the volunteers are elderly, they're senior citizens, and they volunteer their time, and that's really cool. But most of them are obviously white, and it's just not something they like to propose or deal with, and they don't generally like to have markers that propose the negatives. They like stuff that's positive, because everybody wants more positive things in their community. So these guys, they'll do a marker on a black church or a black high school, or the first black librarian or county clerk or something like that, and they'll mention things here and there. But these major events and these terrible, horrendous lynchings, again, the one in Waco where 15,000 people sat there and watched a man be burned alive, or like in Paris, Texas, where the Paris, Texas area, over the years, they burned 4 African American men alive in front of crowds of cheering white folks, jeering. They sold lemonade. It was like the event of the season in some cases. And none of this stuff's, you know, sort of been acknowledged. None of it's been dealt with. And, you know, certainly there hasn't been any atonement. But the Camp Logan riot is mentioned on a marker for Camp Logan, but they don't detail what happened. So it's just something that's not discussed in Texas, and I think it has a lot to do with the fact that most of the members of the historical commissions are older, and you know, when we were working on this marker and dealing with as I said, we went around the county historical commission and went straight to the state of Texas. We threw the ball in their court and said, look, this is what's going on. We think it needs to be addressed. And actually, you know, they said, okay, bring it straight to us if they're not going to work with you at the county level. So that's a positive thing. But at the county level, you know, that was one of the things they said to us. First, they said, you know, there's not enough evidence. And then they said, you know, it's shabbily put together. Then they said it's too negative. Then they told Constance Holloway that they would approve it, but they're not going to because E.R. Bills is a rabble rouser, is an outside agitator. If they'd come to her, or she had come herself, you know, they might have considered it. But they just went through this whole litany of excuses, and finally we just went directly to state.
E.R. Bills is an outside agitator, an author. Just an author stating facts, just an author letting you know what's happened in Texas as far as the Mexican Americans are concerned, the African Americans are concerned, who was burned at stakes. You are an outside agitator. And if she would have came by herself, I don't believe that too. Oh.
You'll get a kick out of this. The first time she talked to the representative from the Anniston County Historical Commission, he's one of these older fellows. He said to her, he said, girl, our colored folk down here, they're happy. Why are you making trouble? And Constance was livid. First of all, she was livid. You know, I think she's got an MA from Harvard. She was upset that he called her girl. You know, she was beside herself. And then he referred to the African Americans
as colored folk. The colored folk down here is happy. What?
They're just, yeah, she was.
Reggie, this is real life in 2016.
So cool, but you know, because we were
in Texas,
you know, win friends and influence people, so to speak. But it was when she related to me, she was livid. She was livid for a day or two over it, and I don't think she's completely ever let it go, and I don't blame her. But that's what we were dealing with, and. It's preposterous to this day and age, the 21st century, for these kind of attitudes to still exist, and for these sort of human anachronisms to be in charge of I guess, these agencies that control or disseminate history. Mm-hmm. But that's what we were dealing with, and that's what we worked through.
So 617-282-0062. You guys are tuned into the Wake Up with Tayla Andre show Monday through Friday, 5 a.m. to 7. We're currently on the line with E.R. Bills. He wrote about the Slocum Massacre, which took place in Texas. He wrote about the Black Holocaust, the Paris Horror, and a legacy of Texas terror, as well as Texas obscurities, stories of the particular exceptional and nefarious. And we do have a question from somebody online anonymously. I'd like to know from him what language he hears from other white people and how they speak of Black people before they find out your stance or your position when it comes to how you feel about, I don't even know how to word it correctly, but how,
about Black folks.
Yeah. Also, and the two parts of that question is he's asking you, how long do you think the marker will stand before it's defaced or destroyed?
That's a really good question. Well, let me say first that, yeah, I'm obviously from my southern drawl, I sound like one of the guys on Duck Dynasty or something. I
love him.
That I
He's
grew up
so
with,
transparent.
or that I knew from college that I played rugby or whatever with. And they can be pretty conservative. Most of them aren't, you know, outwardly racist. They wouldn't just say things in public. But I've been in situations where people have said stuff, and and shocked me. In fact, in one case, the guy, made the joke. He's like, oh, I don't know why anybody's surprised, Obama was elected. He's just another ninja in public housing.
Wow.
He said that as, he looked at me. I mean, I don't look like, I don't have my hair back in a ponytail and peace signs tattooed on my shoulder. I guess I don't know how you would characterize the typical liberal down here, but I guess stereotypically speaking, I didn't fit the mold. And he said it as kind of a groundbreaker to be friendly, I think, and I was shocked, and I kind of set him straight, or attempted to, but stuff is said, just the normal stuff. I don't hear the N-word a lot anymore, as much as I used to, but it still goes on. I'm sure it's not around me. Most people do know me, but there is talk, and it's to me it's disheartening and frustrating. But that's what we're fighting against. Now, as far as the let me say this, okay? It's just ignorance. It's just ignorance. My father passed away while I was writing this book. Writing this local massacre book, and I dedicated it to him. Number one, because I didn't get to spend as much time as I wanted to with him while he was in the process of passing away. We didn't know he was in that process, but he was. And I was so caught up in trying to get this story down on paper, I sort of didn't spend as much time with him as I usually would have. And so I dedicated the book to him. But more than that, I was born in a household, where no one ever spoke the N-word here in Texas, in my house. I wasn't saddled with the terrible baggage of racism. I was lucky because a lot of the people I lived around, went to school with, that wasn't the case for them. And it's just ignorance. It's just utter and abject ignorance. And that's what we're combating. And I was fortunate. I think if I'd have grown up in some of my friends' houses, who knows? Maybe I would have, been one of the idiots making threats, to Constantine about this marker, or maybe one of the folks who, as the caller notes, may eventually shoot that marker or tear it down. The county commissioner, one of the county commissioners in Anderson County, not a very smart guy in my opinion, because you don't say this kind of stuff out loud on radio interviews, but he told a guy with Texas Public Radio that, what's the point in putting this marker up? Because it'll be torn down. It's going to wind up in a local creek, the first weekend it goes up.
What was his position in the community?
He's a county commissioner.
What is that?
He didn't say he was going to do it, but he said, what's the point in it going up? Because it'll be drug off and dumped in a creek the first weekend after they stand it up.
So we're ignorant. We live in a we live in a commonwealth. What is a county commissioner?
Well, I think a county is not unlike, there are usually districts in a county, and in Anderson County, for example, there are 4 districts. They just split the county up in districts, and the county commissioner oversees, road maintenance and just different issues in the county.
Is that like our city councilors?
And this guy, said that. It's shocking, but I don't think it's even get reelected in Anderson County.
So I'm assuming a county commission is the same as our city councilors. Is that safe to assume?
The main city in Palestine and the county seat the main city in Anderson County is Palestine. It's pronounced Palestine, I guess, in the Middle East, but here it's pronounced Palestine. In fact, that's where Adrian Peterson's from. And so it's the city's Palestine, the county's
Board
Anderson,
of Commissioners.
and there is a city council in Palestine, Texas.
So I guess it's like city councilors. So that's like Tito Jackson, like, yo, that shit about to be teared down anyways.
Voting rights, and
that's
voting
crazy.
law, voting opportunities. I think they're determined by the county commissioners. So that's kind of the work he does. He's a public figure. He's an elected guy, and he said that. He told a radio interview, guy that, and I was shocked by it. But you know, there's still that attitude here. There's still that mindset, and frankly, the thing was set. You know, a couple weeks ago, the marker. We're going to unveil it this weekend, but I've been terrified that it's going to be gone before Saturday, or somebody's going to shoot it with a shotgun or, you know, a pistol and fill it full of holes before Saturday when we go to unveil it. And Constance and I thought about trying to install some kind of motion sensor controlled camera near the area to monitor it, but we just haven't had the time or resources. We'd have to find a piece of property and talk to the folks. You know, it was going to be a big deal, but we're all concerned about it being there even before we dedicate it, you know, or being
That's
still
crazy.
there. Let me put it that way.
That is so crazy. I'm so sorry. I am so sorry.
And it doesn't even have to be an organized effort. All it takes is one dumb yokel, you know, to drive by with a gun.
What is a yokel?
You know, hopefully, I think with all the notoriety now, maybe
What they tore down Mike Brown. They tore down
for a while, but eventually, yeah, you're you know, the caller or the guy who emailed or sorry, man or woman who emailed in, yeah, it's a real concern. And you know, as far as I'm concerned, you know, controversy can be good. And as I mentioned earlier, Constance and I are still working on trying to locate these mass graves. If those bozos, those yokels, those rustics are dumb enough to tear down that marker before or after the ceremony, and we, you know, obviously we'll get wind of it, that just creates more notoriety. And
that's absolutely true. Hey, you might want to deface your own property. I'm just joking. We do have another question, ER. Anonymous asked, excuse my ignorance, but what exactly is a marker?
Okay, a historical marker is like it's like well, physically it's just it's a metal post set in the ground with a concrete base, and they put a plaque on it. They're pretty big. They're like 2.5 feet wide and like 3 feet tall, and the wording on the marker tells of what history happened in the area. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know what it's like in other states, but in Texas, they're typically the plaque is made of aluminum and it's put on this post. And usually, like I said, it's like, you know, a historic church or, you know, Davy Crockett camped here, bivouacked here. You know, there are markers for everything in Texas, I guess, or all kinds of things. And most of it's, like I said, just pretty basic history. And these county commissions, they petition to have these markers put up, and the state has to approve them. And they can talk about all kinds of history. I don't know what the equivalent is in other states.
You're right.
But as far as atrocities go, again, the Slocum Massacre is one of the last one. I mean, the one that acknowledges the Rosewood Massacre, I think, is wooden, and it's two-sided. And it was approved by, of all people, Jeb Bush when he was governor. And it's a two-sided marker, and in fact, I think he also approved reparations for descendants of the victims.
Wow!
College fund set up, which is shocking, you know, because Jeb Bush is he's obviously not considered as conservative as Donald Trump, but he's still considered pretty conservative, and so the one in Texas is like that, and I think the one that denotes the Tulsa riots is actually in a big concrete block, you know, with the metal facing, the metal plaque. So ours are done on posts with you know, an aluminum facing, and this one's not real popular. It appears in the area.
Thank you so much for breaking that down. For anybody in Massachusetts, we just looked them up. We have 627 in the state of Massachusetts, at least according to this website. And Reggie B made a mention to, like, Plymouth Rock would be one, the statue that's in the Commons of the man on the horse that says such and such and such. Like, it's basically monuments that capture whatever happened in history at this place. This place is famous because XYZ took place here. And that's what the marker is going to do in Texas. So we're coming to the top of the hour. Currently, we're on the line with ER Bills. ER, for Saturday, What can we anticipate? Because I see that you also, NPR is covering this, which is a really big deal. Congrats. On Saturday, what are your expectations?
Well, I'm optimistic. I mean, the high school in the area, the Slocum High School, they agreed to let us use their cafetorium, you know, to sort of host the ceremony for the dedication, and so that was good. We were heartened by that, to have some participation or some help from the local community in staging it, and you know, we're going to have Malachi Crawford come, Dr. Malachi Crawford from the University of Houston. He's the assistant director of African American Studies there in Houston at the University of Houston. So he's going to come and speak. I'm going to speak briefly. We're going to have, you know, other stuff go on. We have some special announcements. And I'll make the announcement now with you. Constance and I, early on, people started contacting us about this story, you know, and thought, you know, like the Rosewood Massacre, you know, why not make a movie? Why not do a screenplay? And we kind of kept it under our hats, but Constance and I have written a screenplay. So that's going to be one of the special announcements.
Yay, and we heard it first. Thank you, ER. Thank you.
Yeah, we've got the screenplay done, and we're starting to talk to people or think about talking to people. And I think it's going to go off pretty much without a hitch, because there are going to be, you know, thankfully, media there. The Washington Post supposedly is going to be there, and the Dallas Morning News, a bunch of different people in the area, media outlets and reporters are going to be there. So I don't think anything, you know, terrible is going to happen. You never can tell about these folks. Actually, a group of police officers from Memphis, Tennessee, volunteered to come down to work security.
Wow, that's huge.
They were worried about, you know, us, and so they're talking about coming down to help make sure everything goes off without a hitch. But hopefully it won't just be folks that are coming from out of town. Hopefully folks from in town will be there. And actually, I've even received news. You know, one guy contacted me and said, "Are you going to bring some books? You know, that we could, you know, that we could buy, we could purchase and have you sign them for us?" And I said, "Well, I can." And so this guy said, "You know, I've got a couple relatives. They grew up in Slocum, and before segregation, they said it was so bad they haven't been back since. They haven't been back."
Wow.
And he said they're coming back this weekend
for the first time
and for this marker, and they want one of your books. And I was just floored. I was like, "Wow, you know, that's, you know, it was."
He has one more book. I forgot it at home,
cool.
The Soka Massacre.
And in fact, I put the, you know,
that
the
book right
California
there.
News in touch with them. I said, you ought to talk to these people, because it really sort of is emblematic of how things were there for so long. And, you know, the thing is, bad things have happened in lots of places. And the way you deal with it is not cover it up, you know, and you know, sort of disinclude it from your history and act like it never happened. You know, you don't handle it like Turkey necessarily, and I'm referring to the genocide, you know, the Armenians. Really, the way to handle it is kind of like the Germans have. I mean, look where they are now. They're at the top of the heap economically, or real close, you know, and it's a great place to visit and a great place to live. They took on their terrible history. There's not even adjectives to describe the history, the things that went on there, you know, during the war, before and sort of during the war. But they took that terrible history on head on, and they've, for the most part, gotten past it. And, you know, in my opinion, that's what should happen in places like Tulsa and Florida, Rosewood, Florida, and they've kind of done the same thing. Well, here in Texas, those locals, you know, I've tried to talk to some of them. That's what they should do. They should, you know, come to terms with this atrocity, you know, and deal with it, acknowledge it, try to atone for it. That's how you move forward. That's called progress. And so I hope there are lots of people from Anderson County there, not just folks like me and Constance who live outside the county, and, you know, police officers from Tennessee, and, you know, people that have moved away and are coming back to this. I hope folks that live there now in the community want to come together and get behind us, you know, with this effort and support this marker, because it's a step forward. And as I said, you know, it's a step forward for Texas if it's the first marker that acknowledges one of these atrocities or one of these heinous acts, these acts of racial violence towards African Americans. It'll be the first step, and hopefully there'll be hundreds, thousands to follow, and it's something we should all get behind.
Absolutely. I want to thank you, E.R. Bells, not only for your time this rising, but I want to thank you for the time that you've dedicated into finding these facts, to finding these stories, the photos that are in the books, just the history, and bringing forth this history and putting it into something concrete, tangible, a marker, first of 16,000, 15,000. And this is the first. That still blows my mind. One of the things, so I was unaware. Let me say this quickly because we're running out of time. I was completely unaware of the postcards of African Americans that were burned at the stake that became postcards, and people used to buy them by the dozens. I actually learned this because of you. Have you been able to find, like during your research, during your studies, have you found any of these postcards? Or one of the things that I also read is people would tear a piece of, when they were burning African Americans at the stake, or burning them while they were alive, people would like cut off an arm or cut off a penis or cut off a piece of the person burnt and placed it on the mantle. Have you found any of these objects?
No, I haven't found any of I haven't found any body parts. There's talk of teeth and different things floating around. And at the time, people took, souvenirs is what you're talking about. And the postcards, they call them lynching postcards. And you're right. They would buy them and they would send them to relatives, say, hey, we had a barbecue today, and this crazy stuff. I haven't personally ever stumbled across one. I'm aware, that folks have them and sell them for a lot of money, which is sort of
crazy.
But down at the Dallas Public Library in their special collections, they do have a piece of the rope that was used to supposedly drag one African American, one in Corsicana, Jim Henderson, drag him out to the stake before they burned him. And somebody kept a piece of that rope as a souvenir, and it's there. It's there, and they have it in a little sort of glass container, and you can go there and request with their special collection. You can request to see it, and then it's also got the pictures, some of the ones you saw in the book of Jim Henderson being burned at the stake, and the white folks giving speeches before they did it. So some of that stuff is out there, and I've stumbled onto it. But really, as far as souvenirs go, I didn't stumble on much of it personally. Just seeing those places, going and standing in those places, I wouldn't call that a souvenir, but it's pretty chilling and it's pretty eerie. And some of those places still have that atmosphere, in my opinion.
So we have come all the way to the top of the hour. E.R. Bells, you guys, can you please let us know, where can we purchase the book? Where can we find more information? Where can we come and support you? Even though we may not be able to fly to Texas, how can we support you, support the movement, and purchase the books?
Well, just really, as far as supporting the efforts, just keep informed, follow groups like the Equal Justice Initiative, and these African American Studies departments at these universities, support them because they're trying to do solid work in these areas. My book's available everywhere. In local bookstores, if they don't have it on the shelf, they can order it. It's obviously available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, stuff like that. So, I think it's worth a look, and it's a terrible history, but we've got to delve into it. We've got to acknowledge it, and I think it'll change the atmosphere and the conversation.
Thank you. So if you want to purchase the book, head over to Amazon, E.R. Bells, and you'll be able to find all three of his books. Aside from the movie, do you plan on coming out with another book soon?
Yeah. I'm in talks with the publisher about a couple of books, and actually one of them is a book about more of this dark history. I'm thinking about doing a book on the Porvenir massacre, which I was actually researching when I stumbled on the Spoka massacre, and that's a case in Texas where the Texas Rangers rounded up all the adult age Mexican Americans in this small town out in West Texas and shot them down in cold blood. actually led to the disbandment of Company C of the Texas Rangers in West Texas. But it happened in 1917, and it's another atrocity and another dark chapter that needs to be discussed and acknowledged. You know, I think Mexican Americans down here, you know, they suffer from some of this. Well, obviously the same
injustices,
discrimination, and prejudice that African Americans do, and their story is important too. And I'm thinking about tackling it.
Well, I just want to tell you that I love you, I appreciate you, and I thank you for the work that you've done. I can't tell you how many people are like, yes, yes, yes. A lot of people can't believe that a white man is actually disclosing this. And some people are like, yay, go ER.
So there's some reticence. I understand that, but you know, we're all human beings. And, you know, the thing is, like I said, I want Texas. I grew up in Texas. I've lived here all my life. I've done a lot of traveling outside, you know, all over the world. But this is my home, and I want it to be a better place to live. And it's not going to be a better place to live till everybody's treated fairly.
Yep.
You know, that's the bottom line. The hope is behind this. Basically, you know, hope for a better Texas, hope for a better Anderson County, hope for a better United States. It's just the conscious eye, you know, our efforts. It's just our small way of trying to make a difference. I think that's what any decent person tries to do. And like I said, I just happened to stumble onto this story. And once you realize these things have happened and nobody's talking about it or dealing with it, you know, it's sort of your responsibility as a human being and a responsible American to bring it up and address it.
Thank you, ER. We love you. We thank you. We appreciate you. I hope you have an awesome day, and hopefully we can have you back on when that movie comes out.
But it would be nice to talk to you again. You have a good day.
You as well. Thank you so much. Big City 101.3 FM, waking up with Tayla Andre, Monday through Friday, 5 a.m. to 7. I thank him. I thank him. Can you imagine? Oh. Listen, I've been looking through the book. If you guys are listening on air, the video is going to be posted on YouTube, TaylaAndre. Just head over, because I was flipping through the pages, and those that are watching saw some of the pictures, and it'll blow your mind. Absolutely. So one of the things really, really quickly that I wanted to do, Reggie B said, Tayla, you know what? You sound better this rising. Like when I turned on the radio, you sounded 100% better than yesterday. You want to know why? Yesterday I went to oh Lord have mercy, I forgot the name of the school. Mother Caroline, MCA, Mother Caroline. It's on Blue Hill Ave. It's right next to a huge church. What is that? Caroline? Reggie knows.
Right across the street from Castlegate. And Castlegate is a known street back in the 80s for a lot of violence. It's right across the street. If you're going past, there's a Spanish store right there. But right across the street from Castlegate, there's a building right there next to a big old African Catholic church.
Yes. And Mother Caroline Academy was just like, Tayla, come in. We're doing a Women Crush Wednesday. They showed me around the school, and then they were like, presenting Tayla Andre. And I was like, 50 girls. I have to motivate them. Oh my gosh. Mother Caroline is coming in next week. We're going to have 2 of the girls and a representative from the school. It's an all-girls school. Tuition free, private school, best of the best education. I want to call them women because they're not little girls. Those are women that are socially conscious. They know what's going on in the world. They know what's going on in the city. They are absolutely amazing. And I got 50 hugs yesterday from 50 amazing. They're women. They are not little girls. And when I tell you in 10 to 15 years, they are going to be kicking some ASS because amazing. The questions that they had, I haven't had adults ask me these questions. These babies knew what they wanted in life. You gonna be here. We want to know everything. So I want to thank Mother Caroline. This weekend, I am blessed to host the Base Dream event. So you guys know the base, right? The baseball, the base. It's everywhere. I know you've seen it. They're presenting a Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. inspired college fair this Saturday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Melnea Cass Recreation Complex, 120 Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. Myself as well as Britt Boss Lady are going to be hosting. Please come out. They are giving away money. They are giving away scholarships. There's more than 40 participating colleges and organizations. Come out because they're giving away on site. As soon as you get there, you fill out applications, college scholarships and grants right then, right there. They gave away money last year. They're giving away money again this year. The mayor's going to be out there. The governor's going to be out there. You know, we're going to have most of our politicians out there. I would love for you to come out because I will be co-hosting with Britt Boss Lady, and it will be awesome to meet you because I am a hugger. And if you see me and you come out and you bring the babies, please bring the babies. This is a kid-inspired event. Please give me a hug. So this is the You Dream. This is this Saturday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. It's at the Melnea Cass Recreation Complex in Roxbury. Come out 10 to 2 Saturday. And they're giving away scholarships. So if you know a baby that's trying to go to school, don't know what they really want to do in life, bring the babies out. High school students, college students, bring the middle school children too. Because believe it or not, after I met with those 8th graders, 7th graders, and 6th graders yesterday, some of these babies know exactly what they want in life. They know exactly where they're going in life. And you can't put age. You can't. Some of them babies yesterday were more intelligent than some of the adults I've come in contact with. Age ain't nothing but a number. I was going to say the rest, but it's not Freaky Friday. But you know, tomorrow is, oh, Lord, I love Friday. If you don't know about Friday, you about to know tomorrow. 617-282-0062, TAYLA, ANDRE. I love you. I appreciate you. I hope you guys have an amazing day today.
Yep, try baby. You know what it is? It's DJ Sus One, the feature presentation. Listen, make sure you wake up with Tayla Andre Monday through Friday, 5 to 7 a.m. on Big City 101.3 FM. Wake up with the Radio Rebel. Politics, news, conspiracies. Wake up your third eye with unorthodox conversations leading to universal consciousness. This is the type of stuff I'm into, all right? Make sure you tune in. Let's go.
The champ is here. The champ is here. The champ is here. The champ is here.
The champion dial, Big City 101.3, where we do things very big and bold.
It's the Mix King, Roll G, Sweet Chilies of the 90s, mix the 80s, skate extravaganza, Sunday, January 17th, 2016, 8 p.m. until at Shameful Roller Rink. You already know how it's going down. Optional 80s or 90s attire. Admission $15 before 11 or after.
Wait, you can't put it in like that. You have to rinse it first.
What's that, Alfredo? No, that can go in.
Oh, can't you nuts? That's baked on out.
Oh, hey, boo. I forgot we were up live broadcasting. I want to say that I love you. I appreciate you. I hope you have an awesome day. E.R. Bills is absolutely amazing. For those who did not see the book, this is the book, Black Holocaust. I actually left the Slocum, Texas book at home, but this book had more pages in it. And this was actually a postcard. That's a man that was hung. And these are all of the people that are watching. You know, the last hanging, the last burning of a African-American man took place in, what do you say, 1919 was the last one, that about 100 years ago. That's somebody's grandmother. Somebody's grandmother's still alive who was born in that era. Good rising, Kalia. Well, you're not live. Good rising, baby.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
I'm super fantastic. How are you?
I am wonderful, walking to work. I just want to call you and say you are a wonderful inspiration. I'm not a speaker, but I'm a wonderful listener, and you are a wonderful inspiration.
Thank you, baby.
You know that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You have a great day, okay?
You as well.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Oh, yay! I thank you. I love you. I appreciate you. This is not about me. It's never been about me. It's always been about you guys. It's always been about the people, about educating and informing. And it hasn't been done yet. And instead of me bitching and complaining, I can say that because we're off air. Instead of me bitching and complaining about the shit that's not being done, I wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and get it done. There's things that need to be discussed. There's things that need to be talked about. How do you have 15,000 markers in the state of Texas? And this is the first one that actually acknowledges the violence that took place against blacks. Like, that shit doesn't make sense. And again, what did he say? Board or elders. Their parents probably said nigger on a regular basis. They probably said nigger on a regular basis too if they're sitting on the board and still not acknowledging the atrocities that took place. They're not ignorant to it. For crying out loud, he said that people are still have trophies of when people were hanging. Even though he has not come across them, they still sell for big money. It's 2016. We can't forget what happened to the past, and I think that we do need to address these issues head on in order for us to move forward. We can't sit here and say white privilege this, white privilege that, but yet our whole history book does nothing but promote white supremacy. That's a problem. And until we address it, and until we make changes, and until we the people, it's going to be the same way. Nothing's going to change. But I thank you. I love you. I appreciate you. I hope you have an awesome day. TAYLA ANDRE. Mwah.